Hello everybody, it's Sam, the Vaultboyhunter, doing the second episode of the set review show. Um, just a little just a little reminder, set review show. I'm going through each set chronologically, from the very beginning of Magic all the way through infinitely, basically. So we're to the first standalone set, which is the fourth set released of Magic, Arabian Nights. Arabian Nights was introduced in the 17th of December of 1993, so pretty close to a simultaneous release with Unlimited. They probably would have been within a few weeks of each other. Arabian Nights, of course, is kind of set in the reality of the 101 Night mythology. It is the first Magic expansion. Worship Garfield was heavily involved with Joel Mick and Scaphalias again. So basically, those guys kind of had their fingers in all of the really early sets. It was originally intended, like a lot of these early sets, to be basically a spin-off or standalone game. It had a different card back in mind that's just atrocious. Yellow on pink coloring. Let me see. Other interesting things. Of course, it had a very small print run, so a lot of these early sets did. It's the first kind of set in reality, or one of basically two set in reality blocks up until Portal 3 Kingdoms. It was inspired by Sandman number 50, which was entitled Ramadan, which is an amazing issue of Sandman if you haven't actually ever seen it. Of course, Neil Gaiman wrote it, but the art in it is amazing, and I recommend it if you're at all comic book nerdy. Let me see. It has a kind of a weird 101 Nights thing, or 1001 Nights thing, but then they kind of spun it, so it was kind of just an oddball story. I'm trying to see other interesting trivia before I jump in. It has some decent cards, but a lot that are kind of just odds and ends. It looks like there aren't a lot of like misprints or anything along those lines. It's just really good that they didn't do that different card back. It was all commons and uncommons. They didn't really designate a rare in these packs, but in reprints and such, they've been designated as rare. It's only 78 cards, so I figured we can go through this one a little bit quicker than the first show, just because the first show, it took forever. So, first card, and I apologize for if I mispronounce any of these cards. I've done no research into the set. I feel like it's a lot more fun to go in kind of blind. So, give me one more moment. This is my little folder. I'm going to pull up my little notepad with cards that I may want to include into a cube. One thing I didn't do in the last set, I would include Bird's Paradise into a cube. I like them. They carry a sword good, jitty good, whatever. So, alright, so first Arabian Nights card, Abu Jafar. So it's white. I'm going to read the Oracle text because I did look at this card. It's right on top and it looks convoluted. So the Oracle reading is, when Abu Jafar dies, destroy all creatures blocking or blocked by it. They can't be regenerated. It's a 0/1. So I can't imagine that's going to get blocked very often, but it's a decent wall. Summon Leper. I wonder what they changed that to. Sky Creature Human. That's less flavorful. Next card, Army of Allah. White and colorless and 2 white. All attacking creatures gain +2/+0 until end of turn. That's a pretty solid combat trick. Next card, Camel. For 1 white, 0/1, bands. All creatures attacking in a band with Camel are immune to immune to damage dealt by deserts. We'll get to desert later on. Pretty much worthless. Eye for an eye, 2 white. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage this turn, instead that source deals that much damage to you, and eye for an eye deals that much damage to that source's controller. That's not bad. Is an uncommon. I mean, that's going to be how these cards kind of work out. But when they get reprinted, they'll have their correct rarity, basically. So, Jihad for 3 white. As Jihad enters the battlefield, it's an enchantment. As Jihad enters the battlefield, choose a color of an opponent and an opponent. White creatures get +2/+1 as long as the chosen player controls a non-token permanent of the chosen color. When the chosen player controls no non-token permanents of the chosen color, sacrifice Jihad. So that's not bad. I mean, it's kind of a limited anthem effect, but King Solomon, a white and a colorless, tap to destroy an Efreet or Jin, and it's a 1/1. I believe that guy's a rare. Yeah, he would be a rare. Okay, Moorish Cavalry, it's 2 colorless and 2 white. It's a 3/3 with trample. It's a human knight. Okay, PAD, 2 colorless and white. Blocking creatures get +0/+3 until end of turn. It's an instant common. Pretty decent. Okay, Repentant Blacksmith, a white and a colorless for a 1/2 protection from red creature. Not bad so far. Pretty easygoing cards, simple, easy to understand. I mean, I don't think we're going to run into very many. Oh, Charizard. Dang it. Okay. So for 2 white, it's a sorcery. It's a rare. I love the Foglio arts. Phil and Keija, they both have done art in the distant past now, but I love their art. So players play a Magic subgame using their libraries as their decks. Each player who doesn't win the subgame loses half of his life rounded up. So that's a much simplified version of what's printed, which is literally like 2 paragraphs worth of text. So, and then let's see what is Charizard legal in? Nothing, nothing, nothing. Basically, it's a card that exists without a format. Okay, next up, War Elephant, a 3 colorless, 1 white, 2/2 trample banding elephant. Okay, so that's it for white. As I said, this set is in particular very small. So next up is Dan Dan. So it's a 4/1 for 2 blue, and it's a creature. It has Island Home. A lot of blue creatures did at the beginning of Magic, and basically what that means is that Dan Dan can't attack unless a defending player controls an island, and when you control no island, sacrifice Dan Dan. So if you have to have islands, they have to have islands, or it dies. So, pretty sure this got reprinted in Chronicles. It got reprinted at some point. Yeah, Chronicles, it's a common. It was a common here. Not a great card. Fish Liver Oil. It is an enchant creature, blue and a colorless. Target creature gains island walk. Next up, Flying Men. Like Skip Sprites, but in the correct color. A 1/1 flying for 1. Giant Tortoise is 1 and a colorless, or 1 blue and a colorless. It is a creature turtle, and it gains +0/+3 as long as it's untapped. Not great, kind of just a typical vanilla creature. Next up is Island Fish Jasconius. So Island Fish Jasconius doesn't untap during your untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay blue, blue, blue if you do untap Island Fish Jasconius. Island Fish Jasconius can't attack unless defending player controls an island, and when you control, it has Island Home. It's a 6/8. It's a rare. I mean, that's just a lot of effort to get kind of a subpar creature. I don't think you would really play that. Okay, next, Merchant Ship. 1 blue for a 0/2 creature human, summon ship. I don't understand how that's a human, but whatever. It has island home, again, so it can't attack unless there's an island on your opponent's side. And when you control no island, sacrifice Merchant Ship. When Merchant Ship attacks and isn't blocked, you gain 2 life. That card is all over the place. It is definitely not a blue flavor. Next up, Old Man and the Sea. Of the Sea. Okay, sorry, Old Man and the Sea is by Hemingway. Okay, so a colorless and 2 blue. It's a 2/3 creature Djinn. You may choose not to untap Old Man of the Sea during your untap step. Can control a target creature with power less than or equal to Old Man of the Sea's power for as long as Old Man of the Sea remains tapped, and that creature's power remains less than or equal to Old Man of the Sea's power. Like that, I would put that in. Okay, so not bad at all. Okay, next up, the actual Serendip Djinn. So 2 colorless and 2 blue. It's a 5/6 flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a land. If you sacrifice an island this way, Serendip Djinn deals 3 damage to you. When you control no islands, sacrifice Serendip Djinn. Not great. Again, a lot of work. But Serendip Freet, on the other hand, is great. 3/4 flying for blue and 2 colorless. And at the beginning of your upkeep, Serendip Freet deals 1 damage to you. Kind of one of the most effective, even to this day, blue creatures. A personal favorite of mine, even though mine were revised. I think I had like an Italian version of this art at one point, but so that would definitely go in. So next up, Sinbad. Summon Sinbad, creature human, blue and a colorless for a 1/1, and draw a card and reveal it. If it isn't a land card, discard it. Very odd flavor. I don't know how they came up with Sinbad being tied to land, but next up, Unstable Mutation. The first printing of this, I believe. It was after this it was in Revised, and then kind of has been in and out of the game ever since. Blue Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 at the beginning of upkeep of enchanted creature's controller. Put a -1/-1 counter on that controller. So basically it gets smaller, and then the Unstable Mutation eventually does kill it. So, but I mean, for blue, that effect is kind of unique and not really around anymore. Next up is Kumobaja Witches. I probably did not say that quite right. 2 black for a 1/3. Very familiar with these witches because of their popularity in mono black control and Pauper. So you tap it, and then the witches deal 1 damage to target creature or player, and 1 damage to target creature or player of an opponent's choice. So you get to shoot them, and they get to shoot you. So not bad. Next up is El Hajjaja. Probably didn't say that right. 2 black and a colorless for a 1/1, and whenever El Hajjaja deals damage, you gain that much life. So kind of a lifelinky ability. Not great for 3 mana. Next up is Graders. I still like this guy because it's kind of a little bit ahead of curve. So, but like from my earlier days of Magic. So it's a black and a colorless. At the beginning of your end step, if Graders didn't attack this turn, Graders deals 2 damage to you unless it came into play under your control this turn, or is no longer effective by summoning sickness. However you would say that. Next up is Guardian Beast. It's a 2/4 for a black and 3 colorless. As long as Guardian Beast is untapped, non-creature artifacts you control can't be enchanted. They have indestructible, and other players can't gain control of them. This effect doesn't remove auras already attached to those artifacts. Very odd, very strange. Not in black flavor any longer, unfortunately. Next up is Harrison Ogress. It's a 3/2 for 2 black. Whatever Hazran, there we go. Hazran Ogress attacks, it deals 3 damage to you unless you pay 2. I mean, I don't know how desperate you're going to be to get damage in black. There's better options. Next up is Jun Un Efreet. So 2 black and a colorless. It is a 3/3 flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Jun Un Efreet unless you play 2 black. So that's not bad. I mean, it's probably it would be better at 2 black for that much upkeep. Next up is Juzam de Jin. Long time considered to be like the best creature in Magic. Of course, creatures are pushed a lot more now, so it's not nearly as good in that regard. But 2 black, 2 colorless, 5/5, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, Juzam de Jin deals 1 damage to you, so you pay for the power. So, next up is Cabal Ghoul. So Cabal Ghoul is a 1/1 for a black and 2 colorless. At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on Cabal Ghoul for each creature that died this turn. So interesting, kind of flavorful for black, but I don't think you would consider it to be a good creature at this point of the game. Next up is Oubliette, French word somehow in this game, in this expansion, but that's okay. Oubliette, so 2 black and a colorless for an enchantment. And this is a lot of text, but basically it really does this work like Journey to Nowhere, but it has a little extra rider. So when Oubliette enters the battlefield, exile target creature and all auras attached to it. Note the number and kind of counters that were on the creature. When Oubliette leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control tapped, with the noted number and kind of counters on it. If you do, return the other exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control attached to that permanent. So basically, when it comes back in, it taps it, which is a little different than Journey to Nowhere, and then it gets its counters back, which is completely different, and you reattach any auras to it, which is different as well. Because normally with like a Journey to Nowhere, it loses the counters and then the auras fall off. But it's a really similar effect otherwise. Again, really popular in mono black control right now. So next up, Sorceress Queen, 2 black and a colorless for a 1/1. And has activated ability. Target creature other than Sorceress Queen has base power and toughness of 0/2 until end of turn. So I guess that could mess up combat math, but boy, it's just a lot. And then the last black card is Stone Throwing Doubles. So a 1/1 for 1, and it has First Strike in black. So again, not really flavorful for black anymore, but there it is. Alright, so that was black. I don't think I added any cards to the list because even though Juzam was powerful at this point, I don't think it's necessarily great anymore. So next up is Aladdin. So Aladdin is a 1/1 for 2 and 2 red. It is a human rogue, and it has an activated ability of red and a colorless. Gain control of target artifact for as long as you control Aladdin. So basically it stills your treasures. Next up is Alibaba, red, and then a 1/1, a human rogue, and red to tap target wall. Very strange, but incredibly flavorful. Alibaba can, if I remember correctly, he set up in Sesame and got into the treasure and all that junk. So it has a lot of flavor, but not a red ability and not particularly good. So next up is Ali from Cairo. So 2 colorless and 2 red. It's a 0/1, and then when it's in play, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So while he's in play, you can die, but it's a little tricky. So next up is Bird Maiden. It's a red and 2 colorless for a 1/2 flying Bird Maiden, or human bird now, but okay. Desert Nomads is the next card, 2 colorless and a red. It is a 2/2. It has Desert Walk, and prevent all damage that would be dealt to desert nomads by deserts. Again, we'll get to desert. It's a card in here. So. Next up is Her Jackal. So it's a 1/1 for red, and then you tap it to basically target creature can't be regenerated this turn. So it shuts regeneration down for another creature. Have we ran into a regenerating creature at this point of this set? I don't think we have. I don't know if that's really relevant, but if we do, it'll probably be in green, which is next. Okay, next up is Curd Ape, one of my all-time favorite cards. Not for any power reason, I just really like monkeys, apes, and all that. So, red, and it's a 1/1, and as long as you control a forest, it gets +1/+2. So, just because it's an effective low casting cost red creature, and it does push people to draft Simic or Gruul, I would put that in. Okay. Next up is Magnetic Mountain. A red, 2 red and a colorless. It's an enchantment. Blue creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may choose any number of tapped blue creatures he or she controls and pay 4 for each creature chosen this way if that player does untap those creatures. So it's kind of a hoser. There's better hosers, I believe, even at this point. Okay. Mija Djinn is the next card. 3 red for a 6/3 creature. This is the ability that actually got introduced during Arabian Nights. Not the ability, but basically the coin flip action. And this is the first card with it. So whenever Mija Djinn attacks, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, remove Mija Djinn from combat and tap it. So hopefully the odds were in your favor. Next up is Rook Egg, a red and 3 colorless for a 0/3 egg. It's now a bird. When Rook Egg dies, put a 4/4 red bird creature token with flying onto the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So the 0/3 dies and it hatches and you get the 4/4. And the last red card is Udwin Efreet. It's a 3/6 for 3 red. And when Udwin Efreet blocks, flip a coin. If you lose a flip, remove Udwin Efreet from combat and it can't block this turn. Creatures it was blocking that had become blocked by only Udwin Efreet this combat become unblocked. Yeah, okay, not great. Next up, Cyclone. The card I know for sure got reprinted in Chronicles as a rare. So, because it was all over the place and just not a great card. So, 2 green and 2 colorless, an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a win counter on Cyclone, then sacrifice Cyclone unless you play 1 green for each win counter on it. If you pay, Cyclone deals damage equal to the number of win counters on it to each creature and each player. Or just play it like Hurricane instead. Next up is Desert Twister. This card actually was around in a few different sets. 2 green and 4 colorless. Sorcery, destroy target permanent. So not really something green gets to do with like that much freedom anymore. Next up, drop a honey. 1 green, an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, destroy the creature with the least power. It can't be regenerated. If 2 or more creatures are tied for least power, you choose one of them. When there are no creatures on the battlefield, sacrifice drop of honey. So, kind of a unique green effect. Green doesn't really do that anymore. It gets extra things for having the strongest creatures, but it's like drawing cards now or something like that. Alright, Ernham Djinn is next. Ernie. 3 colorless and a green for a 4/5 creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, target non-wall creature an opponent controls gains Forest Walk until your next upkeep. So, interesting thing about that, because Ernie is so splashable, you can often jam it into a deck with no forest, with non-basic lands and not have to worry about your opponent's creature having forest flocks. And next up is Gazban Ogre, 2/2 for 1 green. During its current controller's upkeep, the player with the highest life total takes control of Gazban Ogre. I played that. I mean, you never get to hang on to it. If Biff Efreet is the next green card, it's a 3/3 flying for 2 green and 2 colorless, and it has activated ability of green. If Ben Efreet deals damage to each creature with flying and each player, any player may activate this ability. Now, interesting thing about this, not that it's a particularly good card or anybody would ever want to play it or anything, is that in the revised printing of that ended up on the Serendib, and Serendib ended up formatted onto this card, so I had Serendib Efreet and the correct casting cost, power and toughness, and text here, but it was formatted onto a green card. We'll talk about that a little bit more in revised, but so my Serendibs for the most part looked like this. So, okay, with white borders, which is even worse. Okay, next up is Metamorphos. So a green, it's a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Metamorphos, sacrifice a creature. Add X mana of any one color to your mana pool, where X is 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. Or don't play that card. Just don't play it. There's no reason to. Next up is Naf's Asp. Green and for a 1/1. And then whenever Naf's Asp deals damage to a player, that player loses 1 life at the beginning of his or her next draw step unless he or she plays 1 before that draw step. Okay, so 1 extra damage probably. Sandstorm, a green, all attacking creatures suffer 1 damage. That's not bad. Instant, it was a common. I've actually seen it played in Pauper. So next up is Singing Tree. So I'm going to look up the Oracle text on this. Okay, so it's a 0/3 for a green and 3 colorless. Target attacking creature, you tap. Target attacking creature has base power 0 until end of turn. So that's unique, but not really all that great. And the last green card is Wahali Wolf. Okay, it's a 1/1 for a green and a colorless. And then it taps. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So that's not bad. I mean, again, messes with combat math, but it's probably not all that great. All right, so next up, we're going to go over to artifacts. So artifacts. So Aladdin's Lamp, the original printing on it, there wasn't a 10 for the mana cost yet, so they printed it. Its casting cost is 55 or 5/5. So okay, so it's X and tap. The next time you draw a card this turn, instead look at the top X cards of your library. Put all but one of them on the bottom of your library in a random order and draw a card. X can't be 0. Why would X be 0? I don't really know. Okay. Next up is Aladdin's Ring. Aladdin's Ring is 8. They could print 8. They couldn't print 10. They should have done 8 and 2. I guess that would be 82. You would never pay that for 82. Okay. So 8 to cast. 8 and then tap. Aladdin's Ring deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Reusable damage is good. Aladdin's Ring is not good. Right, next up, Bazaar of Baghdad. So Bazaar of Baghdad is definitely a card that I would put into a powered cube because I would probably want some broken, crazy graveyard interactions, and with Bazaar of Baghdad, basically it's an engine just entirely by itself without having to even put a card in to fuel graveyard shenanigans. Tap to draw 2 cards and then discard 3 cards. So Rippers fuels Dredge in a lot of formats where it's legal. So. Next up is Bottle of Solomon. I'm going to read this one from the Oracle text. 4 to cast. 1. Sacrifice Bottle of Solomon. Flip a coin. If you win the flip, put a 5/5 colorless Stygian artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield. If you lose the flip, Bottle of Solomon deals 5 damage to you. If you put that in your deck, you deserve the 5 damage. Okay, next up is Brassman. A 1/3 for 1. Brassman doesn't untap during your untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 1. If you do, untap Brassman. Not great. Next up, City in the Bottle. In a bottle. This is the first of this effect. And this effect was kind of around until, I want to say Homelands, maybe just a little bit later. I'm sending a bottle 2 to cast. Whenever a non-token permanent originally printed in the Arabian Nights expansion other than City in the Bottle is on the battlefield, its controller sacrifices it. Players can't play cards originally printed in Arabian Nights. Not good. I don't understand why you would hose. Why there is always hosing based around sets. That was a big part of the early game of Magic. Thankfully, we're never going to see an M15 or whatever, Battle for Zendikar. Sacrifice all cards for 1 red mana of Battle for Zendikar, whatever. Trash. City of Brass. The original Pain land. Whenever City of Brass becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to you, and then tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Really good fixing. Of course, it would go in to the powered cube. Dancing Scimitar is a 1/5 flying artifact creature for 4 mana. Not bad. Good unlimited. I mean, goodish unlimited. Not all that great. Okay. Next up is Desert. Here, Desert. So many cards talk about you, Desert. Okay. Desert land. Tap to add 1 mana to your mana pool, colorless mana, and then tap. Desert deals 1 damage to target attacking creature. Activate this ability only during the end of combat step. It's not great. Diamond Valley is a land. Tap to sacrifice a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. I guess vaguely useful, but not really something that you're going to play. Ebony Horse, 3 for an artifact, 2 and then tap. Untap target attacking creature you control. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by that creature this turn. So basically, you can pull one of your creatures out of combat if it's not profitable for you. Next up is Elephant Graveyard. Elephant Graveyard is a land. Tap to add 1 mana to your mana pool. Colorless mana, of course, and then tap to regenerate target elephant. There were like 3 elephants in the set. So they're really trying to support the elephant theme. Next up is Flying Carpet. It's 4 for an artifact, and then tap 2 and tap. Target creature gains flying until end of turn. Next up, Island of Wak Wak. It's a land. Tap. Target creature with flying has a base power of 0 until end of turn. So it flogs 1 creature with flying. Okay. Almost to the end here of Arabian Nights without having to flip a page. That's pretty nice. Okay. Jandor's Ring, 6 casting costs for an artifact, 2 to and then tap. Discard the last card you drew this turn, and then draw a card. That's not bad. I mean, really wonky and expensive, but next card, Jandor Saddlebags, 2 for an artifact with 3 and tap, untap target creature. There you go, combo with Brassman. Right, Jewel Bird. This is an anti-card, the one anti-card I believe in Arabian Nights. So 1 for an artifact. Remove Jewel Bird from your deck before playing if you're not playing for anti. And then tap Jewel Bird. If you do, put all other cards you own from the anti into your graveyard, then draw a card. So I guess it lets you still your anti, but it just doesn't seem like it's that great. It was a rare in Chronicles. People complained about Chronicles for lowering the cost of cards and all of that stuff. I complained about Chronicles because it was just a really junky set. But Library of Alexandria, probably like competitively one of my favorite land cards of the entire history of Magic. They didn't really hit design perfectly back in the day, but like this was like some elegant design. So Library of Alexandria, land, tap to add one colorless mana to your mana pool, and then tap draw a card. Activate this ability only if you have exactly 7 cards in hand. It's restricted for a long time. Banned in Legacy, restricted in Vintage. So still people respect the power of Library. Okay. So 3 more cards, and then we'll wrap this episode up in a timely 35 minutes. These all won't be this short. It's just the luck of the draw that after talking for almost 2 hours on the first episode, I get to go a little easier. Pyramids, 6 to cast for an artifact, 2, no tap, this 2, and you choose one. Destroy target aura that is attached to a land, or the next time target land would be destroyed this turn, remove all damage marked on it instead. I guess it just keeps you, for 2 mana, you get to keep the land in play. Stone Ranger, Desert. Okay, I'm going to pay 2. I'm going to keep my Desert. Okay, Ring of Maruf, 5, and then 5 and tap. Exile Ring of Maruf. The next time you would draw a card this turn, instead choose a card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand. So it's the original Wish card. It does work differently. Ring of Maruf works a little differently than the Wishes from other sets. Rather than letting you simply draw a card into your hand from outside the game, this ability replaces your next draw. If you want to draw a card during the rest of the turn, this ability won't have any effect. Expensive, but a pretty unique effect at this time. For a long time, really. So. And then the last card in Arabian Nights is Sandals of Abdallah. So 4 for an artifact, 2 and then tap. Target creature gains Island Walk until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, destroy Sandals of Abdallah. So I think that 1 star is probably correct for the community rating. And that's it. That's Arabian Nights. Super small set, super small print run. Not a crazy amount of power, but Old Man of the Sea, Serendip Afreet, Card Ape, Bazaar of Baghdad, City of Brass, and Library of Alexandria would be the cards that I would consider putting into a powered cube. And that's it. Next episode, we will be taking a stroll down memory lane, and we will be looking. One moment. Alright, sorry about that. The next set we'll be looking into on the next episode is Antiquities. So we're going to get our artifact on. Okay, and that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the YouTube comments, and have a good time. Bye.